I have been a truck driver since the age of 25, and over the years I've had my fair share of interesting experiences, especially during my night drives. As a delivery driver for various companies, I often found myself traveling long distances across states to drop off shipments at different locations. One particular night, I had to transport a trailer full of wooden furniture items from one side of California to the other. The majority of the journey took me through open desert roads, and since I had a late start to the day, I knew I would be driving in the dark for most of the trip. These desert roads were straight and had minimal traffic, allowing me to push the truck a little faster than usual. During the drive, I suddenly noticed flashing rear lights in the distance. I had to hit the brakes hard to bring the truck to a stop when I realized it was a parked old Chevy Impala with its hazards on. Being a good Samaritan, I got out of my truck to check if the occupants needed any help. I approached the car and tapped on the window, but there was no response. Curiosity got the better of me, and I bent down to peer through the tinted window. To my surprise, there was no one inside the car. I checked all the other seats and confirmed that it was empty. Perplexed, I scanned the dark desert landscape ahead, unable to see beyond a short distance. However, something caught my attention, a seemingly abandoned gas station nearby that I hadn't noticed before. With a desire to be helpful, I retrieved a powerful flashlight from my truck and illuminated the area. The abandoned gas station revealed itself, featuring a dirt-filled parking area with 2 gas pumps. Behind them stood a small building, likely an old convenience store. It made sense to assume that whoever owned the car might be in that building. Approaching the front door of the gas station, I called out to announce my presence and offer assistance. The room was dimly lit by my flashlight, and it resembled a typical convenience store, albeit in a state of disrepair. As I called out again, hoping for a response, I heard a faint sound, a shoe scraping against the floor from the other side of the room, behind some shelves that once held snacks and drinks. Curiosity turning into caution, I called out once more, reiterating my willingness to help. In response, I heard a deep, heavy whisper that I couldn't fully comprehend. It sent a shiver down my spine, accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing coming from a corner of the room. Instinctively, I decided to retreat from the building, rushing back to my truck while dialing 911. Terrified to go back inside, I stayed on the line with emergency services, who requested an exact location. Unfortunately, all I could offer was that I was near an abandoned gas station on some desert road. They asked me to remain on the line while they tried to pinpoint my location, but at that moment the car in front of me suddenly started and sped away into the darkness. I hadn't even noticed the driver getting into the vehicle, as my attention was consumed by the phone call and the surrounding darkness. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, I re-entered the building, making sure to keep the emergency operator on the line. I cautiously made my way to the back section, where I had heard the unsettling whisper and breathing. To my horror, I discovered a fresh pool of blood on the floor, leaving me to imagine the events that had transpired. I relayed to the operator that it appeared to be a crime scene, and soon after a team of state troopers arrived at the location. They asked for any additional information I could provide, such as the license plate number or a description of the suspect. All I could recall was that it was a black Chevy Impala from the early 2000s, and I heard a man telling me to leave before a woman's screams echoed through the building. There were no bodies present, but I shared my suspicions regarding what might have occurred. Regrettably, I didn't have a dash cam at the time to capture the license plate number. However, I promptly installed one in my truck the following week. This incident became a haunting, once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, one that will always stay with me. Before transitioning to an office job in the city, I spent 2 years working as a UPS driver. It was a job that provided good pay, and overall, I enjoyed it. However, there were moments that made it challenging. This particular incident took place in 2010, during the winter season when darkness fell early in the day. I was assigned the night shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. on a Thursday. Living in a small town in North Carolina that wasn't particularly known for its safety or affluence, I often made deliveries in the same area. The housing situation in this town was peculiar, with some blocks consisting of closely spaced houses and trailer homes, while others were desolate with significant distances between residences. Consequently, deliveries took longer due to the scattered nature of the houses, making it necessary to plan strategic routes using marked maps. On this particular evening, after hours of delivering packages across several small towns, I found myself on a street with spaced-out trailer homes and small houses on one side and a forest on the other. It was a little past 6 p.m., and my shift was winding down, with only a few deliveries left. One of the remaining packages required a signature, so I parked my truck in front of the designated house. Retrieving a large, heavy box from the back of the truck, I noticed small metal pieces rattling inside. Curiosity piqued, but it wasn't my job to guess the contents. I simply had to deliver it to the front door of the trailer home. To my surprise, there was no doorbell, so I resorted to knocking. Despite the lack of lights inside and the absence of a car in the driveway, I hoped someone was home. After a few moments, I noticed the curtains of one window move, followed by footsteps approaching the door. However, an unusually long pause ensued before the door cracked open. An older woman cautiously peeked her head out, seemingly hesitant. When I informed her about the package requiring a signature, she reluctantly opened the door further. She appeared fidgety as she signed the device, leaving a rather sloppy signature. She then asked for my assistance in carrying the box into her room, which I had anticipated. As I stepped into the trailer home, a pungent stench assaulted my senses. Each home has its own distinctive smell, be it pleasant or unpleasant, but this particular residence emitted an overwhelming and repugnant odor. I couldn't discern its source, but it was certainly unpleasant. The woman led me through a narrow hallway where I struggled to carry the heavy box. Eventually, she guided me to a door and instructed me to maneuver the box into the closet at the back of the room. When I requested her to turn on the light, she informed me that it didn't work. Consequently, the room was nearly pitch black, with only a faint glow from the living room lamp illuminating the hallway. Struggling to see, I carefully navigated the box toward the closet. However, as I drew closer, I noticed a figure standing in the corner. It was undoubtedly a person, discernible by their shape and slight movements. The presence of this individual in the closet, hiding from me, defied all logical explanations. Realizing that something was amiss and not wanting to stick around to find out what this woman and the person in the closet had planned, I decided to leave the box where it was. I walked past the woman and bid her a polite farewell, despite her protests and derogatory remarks. I didn't want to escalate the situation or put myself in danger. I continued with my remaining deliveries that night, and once my shift ended, I returned home. However, this unsettling experience marked the beginning of my search for a new and better job, ultimately leading me to pursue an office position in the city. I've been working as a trucker for various companies for the past 10 years. 3 years ago, I was employed by a warehouse company in Kansas, responsible for shipments. On a cold Monday, February 2nd, I found myself behind the wheel of a semi-truck, ready to tackle a busy week of deliveries. Starting my drive at 3 p.m., I aimed to reach my destination by the same night. I wanted to avoid pulling over on the side of the road to sleep, so I pushed myself to complete the journey quickly. Driving slightly above the speed limit, I was aware that it was faster than usual for a semi-truck. As the night progressed, I began to feel increasingly tired, but with the destination less than an hour away, I believed I could power through. My eyes grew dry, and it became a struggle to keep them wide open. Desperate to stay alert, I splashed water on my hand and rubbed it on my face, providing temporary relief. The road was dark, with only my truck's headlights illuminating the way. I remember reaching for a sip of water and being startled when I saw a figure approaching rapidly in the distance. Reacting quickly, I hit the brakes hard, bringing the truck to a near stop. As I got closer, I could make out the features of the person standing in the middle of the road. They wore all black, with a black scarf wrapped around their neck. But what struck me as odd was their unusually long neck. Although their face remained a blur, I considered offering them a ride. However, without hesitation, the mysterious man turned and darted into the woods. Shaken but determined to continue, I pressed on, dismissing the strange encounter. It wasn't until about 20 seconds later that the full weight of the situation hit me, and my heart started racing. I couldn't shake off the eerie feeling of what had just transpired. Nonetheless, I needed to focus on my tight schedule, so I managed to regain my composure after a few minutes. Just as I began to settle down, another unexpected incident occurred. I spotted something dart across the road in front of me. Initially, it resembled a large animal, but as it disappeared into the woods, I realized it was another person. This time, I didn't even tap on the brakes. I simply kept going, increasing my speed to hasten my arrival. Fear had started creeping in, compelling me to get to my destination as quickly as possible. Minutes passed without any further incidents, but exhaustion started to take its toll. I found myself veering into the other lane occasionally, struggling to stay awake. With around 40 minutes remaining in the drive, I began searching for a suitable place to pull over and rest for the night. Eventually, I came across a small gravel clearing on the side of the road, likely intended as a rest stop. I parked the semi-truck there, reclined my seat, and closed my eyes, intending to sleep. Suddenly, I awoke in the darkness, unsure of what had disturbed my slumber. A gut feeling urged me to turn on the headlights, and as I did, the surrounding area in front of the truck was illuminated. To my astonishment, there stood the man with the black scarf I had encountered earlier, this time right in front of the truck. His face was much clearer now, displaying an unnaturally wide smile, while his eyes were wide open, fixed on me through the windshield. Instinctively, I started the truck and maneuvered it out of the clearing as best as I could. I couldn't fathom how he had managed to traverse the 10-mile distance from where I had last seen him. Determined to put as much distance as possible between us, I didn't stop again until I reached my destination. There, in the safety of the parking lot, I eventually fell asleep and woke up early the next morning. Reflecting on the events, I could only rationalize them as products of a fatigued mind, conjuring up vivid and terrifying hallucinations. Nevertheless, the intensity and realism of these experiences continue to confuse and frighten me to this day.